In this tutorial, we will learn about recursive function in C++ with some simple example. Before we go into the actual coding, it's really important for us to know what is a recursive function. Recursive function is nothing but a function that calls itself is known as a recursive function, and this process or this technique is known as an recursion. So I said recursive function is nothing but a function that calls itself. So you can see this syntax here. We have the main function because everything we will start from the main. On this main function we have the function calling. So this function is calling where? This particular function. This is what it means. So this is function calling. But when you go into this function, again this function is calling the same function. This function is nothing but this same function. Sorry, there is a typo error here. Let me just remove this function because the name of the function is this. Now the question is this. Here is the main function. I'm calling this function. When I go to this function is again calling the same function. So don't you think that this function will ended up running infinite time? So if you want to stop this particular function, we need to set some conditions here, right? If you don't set any conditions, especially on this particular function, because you're trying to call the function again and again, you might ended up with running this particular function infinite time. Now I'm going to give you a quick and simple example to explain how recursive function works. So all you need to know is a function that calls itself. So here is a syntax where the function is calling itself. Now let me give you the quick example for the better understanding of this recursive function. So here what I'm going to do, I hope in mathematics you know about factorial number. So when I enter the number as 5, it will find out the factorial value for the 5. So the factorial number will be, we will multiply the same number, then let's say the factor, if you want to find out the factorial for the number 5, so we multiply from 5, then 4, 3, 2, 1, then we will get the result, right? Now we are going to find out the factorial number of a given number using this recursive function. So let me write my main function. Within the main function, what I'm going to have is simply a message that I'm going to ask my user to enter the positive number so that we can able to find out the factorial number. So cout, enter any positive number. Now in the cin, I need to collect that number, right? So let's say the number that I want to collect them here is from the variable name called number. So I need to create a variable here named called number so that that number value will be collected. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a function where we are going to perform the factorial operation. So here I'm going to create a function with a return type name called integer. The name of the function is, let's say, fact. So since I'm going to get the factorial number, so I need to get the input from the user, right? So here I'm going to pass the parameter integer n. So this is a place where I'm going to get the input from the user. So inside I'm going to write the actions to perform the factorial. So how can you perform the factorial? Let's say I'm going to perform the factorial. Since is an integer, so I'm going to return something. What I want to return is whatever the number that the user enters, that is n, isn't it? So that will be collected in this particular n. So that is the reason why there is a n. Then I will multiply with let's say I'm going to use this fact again in bracket. I'm going to say n minus 1. So what are we trying to do them here is this. What I want to return from here is whatever the number that the user enters here will be collected, then that one will be passed here. So for example, let's say the user enters 5. So 5 will come here and then 5 will come here, return. So n value is 5 times fact n minus 1. What is n minus 1? What is n value? N value is 5. N minus 1, what is the fact value now? 4. It will multiply 5 times 4. But when you say n minus 1, what will happen? Again the factorial function will be called, because this fact is nothing but the function, name of the function, right? So we are trying to call this function again. So when you keep like this, when you leave it like this, what will happen? This function will execute forever, infinite time, unless if you set a condition. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to set an if condition. This if condition will make sure how many times this function is going to be calling itself. Now I'm going to set the condition if n greater than 1. If n greater than 1, perform this operation. Let me just put them in a loop. So I'm going to say put them here, and then in the else part I'm going to just return 1. If it is true, it is going to return 1. Now in the main function I need to call this function, right? Now I have the function. I have not called the function here. So how are you going to call the function? Simply you can say, let's say I'm going to create another variable, integer. I'm going to call this one as a result equals, because whatever the result that we collect, we are going to store them in this a particular variable name called result. So here I'm going to do the function calling. So I'm going to say fact, that's the name of the function, right? So the value, whatever the value that we get them using this return function, I need to collect them here. So let me say this one is also n. So in this case it's a number, because I have not declared any variable as n. So here is going to be number. And then finally I need to just print the result. Tutorial value of a given number is to be collected from the result variable. Now when I save, and then again I have not declared this function, so function declaration is very important. So let me go there, let me do the function declaration, paste here integer, whatever the parameter. As I said in the previous example, that one doesn't matter, as long as you have declared the function exactly like the way that you have done them here. The data type has to be same, but the variable name can be anything. So when I run this one, when you enter any positive number, let's say I'm going to enter 5. So what is the factorial of 5? 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is an 120. So when I hit enter, the factorial of a given number is 120. So how is this program is running? So what I can do, let me just copy this and then paste them here in the whiteboard, so that it is easy for me to explain what is actually happening there. Now let's pay the close attention to what was happening there. I said recursive function is nothing but a function's calls itself, right? So this is my main function in program. Whatever the things that are found in the main function is the only thing is going to be executed. So first we have declared the variable as number. We are going to ask the user to enter the positive number. Let's say the user enters the number as 5. That one will be collected, and then here we are going to call the function fact. What is the function here? Fact. It's here, it will come here, because a function calling, as soon as it sees the function name, it will come here. Integer n, what is this one? The value that we have collected from the user, that is 5. So it will come here inside again. If n greater than 5, 5 is the n value greater than 1. Is it true or false? The condition is true. If the condition is true, it will come inside, right? What is it going to do? N times. So meaning, what is n value? 5 times fact minus 1. So this one is a fact. N minus 1, what is n value? 5 minus 1 is 4. Now again, this fact is a function, the name of this particular function. What is going to happen? After executing 5 times 4, 5 times 4, the function will call itself, because we are trying to call the same function. So in this case, what will be the n value? This n value is 4. So with 4, it will come inside. Now instead of 5 greater than 1 at the first step, in the second step the n value has become 4, so 5 will become 4. 4 greater than 1 is still true. If it is true, it will come here again. Now what is going to happen? N times, so 4 is there, times this one will become 3. When this one become 3, again it will go to the function, then it will replace this 4 with 3 and then 2, and 2 it becomes 1. So when it reaches 1, this particular function, this particular if statement is going to false. When this particular function becomes false, it will go to the else statement. When it goes to the else statement, it will return 1. What does that mean? Whatever the operations that you have done so far will be stored, and that result will be come here as a value for the number. Then that one will be stored into this particular variable name called result. Then that result we are trying to print them here. Basically we are trying to call this function fact within the same function. This is called recursive function. I hope this one is making sense now. If you have got any questions, you are free to ask me through the comment section.